Dear Father Simon and the fastidious founders of forgiveness, cast your minds back to 1988. By the way, we're talking about first gigs. Matt, what was your first gig?
Transvision Vamp.
Cast your minds back to 1988 when Transvision Vamp
really?
were tearing up the charts, and their singer, Wendy James, was tearing up hearts. She was more than just a lead singer of a rock band. She was the most beautiful lady in the world, and I loved her, said Peter. So did Matt, I think, probably.
So did my dad.
Okay,
Thanks for
just
that.
putting you in your place.
He loved her more than you did.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
That is... Matt's going to remember that forever.
He's just remembering now.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's one of the best put-downs I've ever heard, Bobby.
Well done.
Nicely done. Anyway, says Peter, I was at college at this time studying important things like A-levels and beer and the opposite sex. Now, Wendy had diverted my attention to the bleach blonde rock chick type, so I couldn't believe my eyes when one day, out of a swirling mist of smoke, walked Wendy. Not the actual Wendy, but as near as. She was blonde, she had pink lipstick and blue eyes, and as if in slow motion, she walked past me, this is genuinely true, winked, and blew a mouthful of smoke into my face. Once my eyes had stopped watering, at different times.
Yeah.
Once my eyes had stopped watering and I had refocused, I mouthed, "Hi." She simply said, "Flag market, Saturday, 2:00. I might be there."
Oh, yeah.
She probably said it more like, "Flag market, Saturday at 2.
Yes.
I might be there." Anyway, this is clearly going to go kapow in his head. I just so happened, said Peter, to be going into town anyway the coming Saturday, as I wanted to pick up the latest 12-inch single by Transvision Vamp called I Want Your Love. Fate or what? My friends couldn't believe it, as Wendy, as I'm referring to her, was the new kid on the block, and so far untouchable by any student who dared summon up the courage to speak to her. The rest of the week dragged, time slowed down to a crawl, and I became focused on one thing and one thing only, dare I say it, my might-be date. Having saved my best socks, best pants, T-shirt and jeans for the weekend, nice picture, I was ready and primed. I was just about to leave the house when my dad yelled, "Oi, where are you going?" So I say, "Going in town to hang out with some mates." I didn't want an interrogation, or worse, I didn't want advice. So my dad says, "Can you pick up my glasses for me from the opticians near the Flag Market?" Anyway, I spent the next couple of minutes flailing my arms about like Kevin the teenager and trying to visualise myself turning up on my might-be date, clutching my dad's glasses in a bag from my dad's opticians. Definitely not the look I wanted to go for. However, my protests melted away with my dad uttering 10 simple words, "I'll give you £1 to buy yourself a pie." Anyway, so I was easily bought.
Okay.
Timing was of the essence now, so I raced into town, and my first port of call was the record store. Here I located Transvision Vamp's 12-inch single, paid my money, and then spent a short while staring in awe at the front cover, which had 3 portly men and one who were in the band, one beautiful woman in a white dress with holes in, hair dyed pink.
Oh, yeah.
Time had passed, therefore, whilst I was staring at this, and therefore a jog was now required to get me back on track to the opticians. A young female assistant popped up from behind the counter as I entered, and cutting to the chase and still slightly breathless from jogging, I said, I need to collect glasses for Mr. Foster. The young assistant pulled out a few drawers, searching for the glasses, but wasn't having any luck. "What name was it again? What name?" she said nervously. I go, "Oh, for heaven's sake. The shop, you called my dad, Mr. Foster, and said they were ready. Can you please hurry up? I've got to be somewhere." There was a hint of desperation creeping into my voice. Now, I may have been a little abrupt, but I was shocked when the assistant suddenly started to burst into tears. And she says to me, "I knew I was rubbish at this job. I'm ever so sorry." And then she disappeared behind the curtain into the back offices. Well, at that point, I heard a little commotion, and then a man came out from behind the curtain. "Can I help you, sir?" he said, with what looked like a tear in his eye as well. Surely I hadn't upset him already. I hadn't spoken to him. I ran through my request again, and he repeated the search pattern of his female assistant. I checked my watch. It was now 1:55, 5 minutes before my big meeting with Wendy. I raised my voice slightly. "How many people does it take to find a pair of glasses in this place? I have a date. If I'm late, I'm going to blow it. Please hurry." The man stopped searching and stood in front of me, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "A date? Just like my wife has been having with other men?"
What?
And then he burst out crying as well and muttering words like cheat and rotter and betrayal. He then slipped back behind the curtain to join his sobbing assistant. What have I found myself in here? Again, I found myself alone in the shop. I glanced around in disbelief, wondering what I'd started, and I suddenly caught sight of a shop directly opposite. It's another optician's. That's the one I'm supposed to be at for the collection. Well, it was fight or flight time, so I took to my heels and sprinted for the door. I bolted to the other opticians, where I was in and out with the glasses in less than a minute, and that's including bumping into an old guy who I didn't even stop to apologise to. But I was in a hurry. The bells from the church rang out as I sprinted up the road to the flag market, where Wendy just might be waiting still. And there in the corner of the flag market, leaning on a lamppost... Different song. Wrong image.
Yes, a little.
Was Wendy, and she was alone.
Well,
And she was beautiful.
Oh.
And she managed to find the strength to make polite conversation and explain. I said I was ever so sorry for being late. I had to collect something from my dad, and I nipped into the record store, but then my voice trailed off. I didn't have the record on me. I just realised, in my haste to leave the opticians, the first one, I had left it on the counter. I explained to Wendy where I'd left it, omitting the part about potentially making two people cry. "Stay here," she says suddenly. "I'll get it for you, and you can go and get us a couple of cans of Coke." Before I could say anything, she was gone in a cloud of obsession perfume. I sat and waited I later discovered.
Yeah.
I sat and waited for Wendy to return for an hour, and then 2 hours, and then with a heavy heart I left. No doubt she was filled in by the shop assistant and her boss, and maybe even the gentleman who I knocked over, and decided I wasn't worth wasting her time on because I had made them cry or knocked them over. Wendy never gave me a second glance at college ever again, and I had well and truly blown it. So I need forgiveness on 4 levels. For upsetting the female assistant, making her cry. For pushing the optician man over the edge. I didn't know, did I? For knocking into the blameless old man and not checking if he was okay. And finally, Wendy, for letting desire take over and being mean. I feel actually I've suffered enough, having lost any chance of friendship with Wendy, but I still seek belated forgiveness and now bow to your mercy. Well, you know, you can imagine his excitement. He's got this vision of Transvision Vamp, and there is his own Wendy. And so you're going to do desperate things, Sister Bobby. What are you saying there?
Well, on the first 2 counts of the shop assistant and the shop owner, I'm assuming, Peter, I suppose you were young, and I do understand the situation you were in. And it's quite an unusual situation, but I suppose the advice there really is, of course, just be careful with people.
He wasn't to know. He wasn't to know,
and also, but you know, sometimes just be careful. You think, you know, you can be wrapped up in your own world and forget that other people are dealing with things too. So be kind all you can, even if they're wrong. Try and be kind. But actually, it's you don't need forgiveness for anything else. What I'm really cross with is Wendy, because obviously she just wanted you for your, you know, for your 12-inch. So she got that, and she obviously went back home and left you with 2 cans of Coke.
Let's keep
right.
it classy, everyone.
Well, she did, didn't she? She went back, got his
Correct.
record,
You're absolutely right.
and then
Absolutely.
that's it, and then left him in the
That is
place.
That's absolutely right.
Exactly.
Brother
Poor
Matt, what
boy.
are you saying
Well,
there?
I am saying, what on earth is happening here, having 2 opticians on the same road, opposite each other? This is going to happen all the time. A shop specifically for people who
It's their
can't see
fault.
very well.
It's their fault.
What are you doing having the 2 shops opposite? It's a recipe for disaster. And I shall not be forgiving, because I saw Transvision Vamp, and they did Baby I Want Your Love 3 times. Twice in the Ong. Have you not got any? It turns out, no, they haven't got any other tracks. So I am going to forgive.